All right, so Revelation Roads Sunday Talk number 3, part 4. Welcome. I appreciate you being here. If you're just getting into it on this part, please go back and start at part 1 to see the whole series going through this. Probably part 5 will be the last. It may be enough going on right now that it ends up being part 6, but I don't intend to ever make it more than a part 6. So part 1 is usually kind of long, and part 6 will either be long or short depending on how much stuff there is going on in it. So let's get right into this one. It's actually more pages, but hopefully we can move through this kind of quickly. So Syrian President Bashar al-Assad issued a special order yesterday increasing the salaries of Syrian soldiers by 50%. Assad wants to raise the morale among his soldiers, but does so in the form of a one-time grant for only 1 month. After all, and this is comments from Amir Tsarfati. After all, it's a waste of money on those who will be killed in the battles anyway due to years of financial neglect and lack of training and motivation. So, and further on in here, and I think in yesterday's, there's a lot of Assad military forces that are actually quitting, surrendering, and joining the rebels in Syria. The Assad are the military regime of the portion of the Syrian government, and so they're joining the enemy. And apparently, there's been situations in years past that there's a lot of corruption and not well taken care of the military and not properly training them. So, and that's what he's saying here. So, massive joint force convoy of Syrian National Army, SNA, reached the outskirts of Hama to help liberate the city from Assad regime and Iranian militias. So in earlier ones, it was speculated that they would move on to Hama and go after that city as well. Aleppo's fallen. They've got it. And now they're moving into Hama. And there's more about it through here. Iraqi Prime Minister Mohammed Sudani has mobilized 3 army brigades and 2 PMF brigades to the Syrian border, stressing Iraq won't remain a spectator amid escalating regional conflicts. So I guess they're kind of preparing, hopefully, that Iraq doesn't join in and join the rebels or however they end up doing. The Syrian rebels have officially announced that they have entered the key city of Hama. So here, they've actually gotten into the city. News, let's see, special helicopter landed on the outskirts of western Hama to evacuate Assad military officers fleeing the city, fearing capture by Syrian opposition forces. The helicopters departed to an unknown location, leaving the remaining troops to their fate. So the brass, the big guys, the kahunas, all escaped Hama to avoid getting in trouble and left their troops behind. So they run off with the ship instead of sinking with it. Hezbollah terrorists are brought to burial, endless line of cautions. So, as being at the end of or at the ceasefire with the Hezbollah in Lebanon, they've started to bury the hopefully dead personnel from the fight. Which there was a lot in the initial setup with the pagers and the radios and all that. And then many, it's been thousands of Hezbollah personnel that were killed, and less than 100 Israeli, I think it was 79 Israeli military personnel were killed in the war with Hezbollah so far, and it was thousands of Hezbollah. So here it is. Hama has fallen. The Syrian Arab Army, in a statement, confirms it will withdraw all SAA units, Syrian Assad Army units, from Hama city to avoid putting the lives of civilians at risk, and will continue the fight outside the city. So the military, the governmental military of Syria is backing away from the city, letting them take it, and they intend to fight on the outside instead of fighting an urban fight in the cities, and a lot of civilians getting killed, which is respectable if that's the case. People of Hama are celebrating as the Syrian opposition forces are advancing in the city. So there's reports that the people in the city of Hama in Syria are actually celebrating the fact that the ISIS and Al-Qaeda rebels are actually taking over the city, which that's just unreal to me, but apparently the ones that was there must have been bad. Mass defections. Okay, here it is about the hundreds of Assad forces join the rebels. Hundreds of Assad regime soldiers, security personnel, police defectors are now registering with the rebels' interior ministry under the Salvation government. So if you're just a moment ago, they sent helicopters in there to take the brass out, the big kahunas, the officers and all that, left their guys behind, so they give up. They're joining the rebels. The occupation brought the Syrian rebels a reward in the form of a squadron of fighter jets at the Hama air base, which was also captured. I'm sorry, but this next thing is kind of funny, but it proves my point that we should all start channels on YouTube and start helping everyone. But if you'll remember earlier in earlier portion of this report, I was talking about how they were taking pictures of themselves with the tanks and helicopters and stuff that they had captured, the rebels, that is. And I was talked about the story about the little kid that shot his dad in the stomach because he didn't know how to use the weapon that his dad had handed him. Well, and the same thing with those rebels who are taking the tanks and the helicopters. They don't know what to do with them. Well, now they do. So a video of Syrian government opponents, the rebels, learning to fly a helicopter from YouTube. So and I'm just don't have time to put videos and stuff up on the green screen here, but so it's a video of one of the guys, like I guess in the passenger seat, and the other guy in the pilot seat, and he's watching YouTube videos, and he's telling the guy what he's learning on YouTube on how to fly the helicopter. So YouTube can do anything. Okay. So this is another quote from Amir Tsarfati. John Spencer on X posted this. How Amnesty International became a joke. So Amnesty International is accusing, or actually charging, Israel with genocide. And so they literally changed the definition of, or here it is. In order to charge Israel with the crime of genocide, Amnesty took it upon themselves to redefine genocide to make it the accusation fit. So in other words, they just grabbed the dictionary, redefined what genocide means so that it fit what Israel is doing, and so they could charge them with genocide. And unfortunately, that's the world we're in. That really is. I mean, get out in the world and talk to people, and you'll hear stories like this all the time about how people twist things, and the stuff we've seen in this election, and everything going on, and how things get twisted one way or the other just to suit someone's cause. If I don't like you, then the laws I want to charge you with don't fit. I'll twist things around to make them fit. And that's kind of like the world we're living in. Unfortunately, it is the world we're living in. Let's see. After the fall of Aleppo and Hama, all eyes are now on Homs, Homs. So they're kind of speculating and wondering, will we now see Hezbollah fleeing from Qasr back to Lebanese territory? Because in an earlier report, Hezbollah officials were kicked out of Lebanon because of everything going on, and so now they run to Syria. And so they're wondering if they're going to run back to Lebanon now that Syria's blowing up. And they're also speculating that Tartus and Damascus will end up falling to the rebels as well. Never a dull moment. That was Abu Ali that posted that. And I don't know where, but he's the one that made a note of that. And so if you think about it, okay, that's another reason why I like this earthquake app, because I have it. You can tell it to really watch an area, and so I set nothing below a 5 will register as a critical, but I made exceptions. Like in the U.S., it is, I think anything like a 4 or bigger will notify me. And then in Louisiana, anything like a 3 will notify me. Then Central Louisiana, anything a 1 or more will notify me. And so I also set for Damascus in Syria to I think a 5. Because in my thoughts, of course, in the Bible, in Revelations, Damascus is destroyed. I think it's going to be a big old mushroom. But who knows? But it's a deal because I've actually seen earthquakes and stuff going on there, and it gives me a notification. So if I see anything pop up with Syria, I know something terrible's fixing to happen. Okay, so unusual incident at the Jordanian border. The IDF captured 3 suspects in Israeli territory on suspicion of being involved in smuggling of weapons. So apparently they caught some people trying to smuggle some weapons back into to Hezbollah. China calls on its citizens to leave Syria, effective immediately. The Sunnis are back. Panic in the Shiite axis. The foreign ministers of Syria, Iraq, and Iran will meet tomorrow in Baghdad, which will be not tomorrow, but will be Thursday. So, Iraq, Jordan, and Lebanon fear that the rebels will continue to them as well, or make it to their countries. The nation states are melting in one big jihadist Sunni meltdown. So they're concerned that they take over Syria, then they end up continuing on to, because Iran is attached to Syria and Iraq's attached, and then on the other side of all that you got Israel, and then what they call the Sea, which is, I forget which one, but it's the one that Jesus calmed. Okay, and if I'm wrong on that, please comment and correct me. So the comment from the river to the sea, it encompasses from the beginning of Israel all the way across Israel, across Gaza to the sea. Okay, so Netanyahu summoned an emergency discussion on Syria as Israel recognizes signs of a possible collapse of Assad's army and fears for the stability of the regime. So Israel is concerned about Syria, the government, falling. And I think that's due in part to, at least, they're not being attacked by Syria. Leave it in there. supper. Okay, so I think it's Israel, more or less concerned that, okay, Syria is not shooting rockets and missiles and stuff at us. They get taken over by, by the ISIS and Al Qaeda. Maybe they're going to start shooting missiles too. Anyway, and then a later report was the fear is Iran gaining a strong foothold in Syria. Up to now, they have been supporters. So, and another thing that they're concerned about is Iran actually becoming, like the controllers over Syria. So right now, Iran is supporting Hezbollah, which is a faction inside of Lebanon, which has its own government and whole setup. And so the concerns is with the government collapsing in Syria, that Iran comes in and kind of takes over and extends their boundaries and is even closer to Israel. So, Syrian civil war, major developments. The situation in Syria continues to evolve rapidly and significant changes on the ground. So it's constantly, things are just going off and going crazy. In a dramatic turn of events, the rebel forces have gained control of the Acrobat area, which is, I'm probably just butchering that name. Adding to the momentum, HTS, Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, Chief Mohammed al-Julani, has announced full control over the city of Hama. So the rebels have stated that they control Hama now. He's urged rebel fighters to refrain from acts of revenge against Assad's sympathizers. Meanwhile, which is, that's good. They hate each other, and so now they've taken over, and it would be the perfect time for them to start getting revenge. And so he's telling them to back off of that. But the reason why is not because he cares about any kind of genocide over there. It's that he wants everything to remain. He wants to remain in power. And so if you've got skirmishes and all kind of stuff going on and revenge taking place and this and that and the other, there's no organization, and he may lose control because his guys are too busy squabbling with settling old scores. Meanwhile, in the north, intense clashes are ongoing between the Turkish-led Syrian National Army, SNA, and the Kurdish-led SDF, Syrian Democratic Forces. I don't even pretend to understand all that. I just know that we need to stay in prayer about all of it. Wars and rumors of wars. It's in the Bible. We're in those times. There is no doubt that we are in the end times. And I don't think it is years and years and years down the road. I'm telling you. You need to pay attention to what's going on in the world, in the Middle East and in Israel, because it is in Revelations. You read Revelations and Ezekiel and Daniel and those books, and you will read about what is happening now. Breaking. Tsunami warning issued for California and Oregon after a 7.3 magnitude strikes off the west coast. San Francisco is the city that could be most affected by a tsunami. A tsunami could strike San Francisco within an hour following the 7.3 magnitude earthquake off the coast. And I'm not going to read the times because they have, I think, since canceled that. Syrian opposition forces have entered the Hama governor's palace in the city center. So some of this stuff is kind of hit or miss because I don't catch it in time and move pertinent facts together, and so you might see a little break. California fixing to go underwater, and then the quick little Syrian opposition forces, and then back to California again. ISIS launched an all-out attack in the north of Homs district in the desert area. Assad's forces are fleeing the area. So there are constant earthquakes. My phone went nuts most of the day, showing earthquakes in and around California and off the coast of California and such as that, which makes sense because of the large scale earthquake that was in the ocean within 43, I think it was within 43 miles of the coast. And so they were afraid that a tsunami would take over portions of California and Oregon, and San Francisco would be devastated by that tsunami as well. And they've actually canceled the alert since then. But there was a lot of dangers of this potentially happening. And I don't know if you're aware of it, but there's a fault line that follows all the way up the portion of California. I think they've even made movies about it where California falls off into the ocean, which it very likely could. San Andreas fault line, I think is what it's called. And so that brings to a conclusion this update. And unless things are very, very wild tomorrow, which is Friday, it may be the last one, and these should be starting to post on the channel. And by now, I think you should be getting close to the last one. So again, I appreciate you spending your time here with me. I appreciate you showing up. I would ask that you would like and subscribe. I know your time is precious, and I hope that you can comment below to confirm or dispute any of these things that I'm reading, because I want to know. I mean, I don't know for a fact, and I don't have time to actually dig into the internet to try to find news bites on different sites. Like I said, I don't trust mainstream media, and so that's why I go to the secondary medias like Amir Tsarfati, in which he's got no dog in the fight. So he literally reports good and bad stuff about Israel, and so I really trust what I get from him. The only downside that I find from time to time is that he gets information, he releases it instantly, and then he finds out a moment later that it was not the case, and he'll issue a retraction on it pretty quick. And so this right here, I'm kind of filtering any of that stuff out, which doesn't happen a lot, but it does happen occasionally. So anyway, I thank you and I appreciate you, and I hope to see you again. Thanks, and God bless.